Jason, her voice cracked. Please don't do this. He stood in the doorway, arms folded, jaw tight, refusing to meet her eyes. The same arms that once cradled her in bed now blocked her like she was a stranger. You need to leave, Lana. Tonight. Her hand rested on her swollen stomach. 8 months. The baby shifted slightly, as if reacting to the tension. I don't have anywhere to go, she whispered. I'm carrying your child. Jason's expression shifted. Disgust? Guilt? But it vanished before she could name it. This isn't my problem anymore, he said. You knew what this would do to me. You chose this. You trapped me. Her throat tightened. Trapped you? Jason, we planned this. You were happy. You said... I said a lot of things, he cut in. Before everything changed. Before everything changed. Before he started coming home late. Before the silence. Before he stopped calling her babe and started calling her a burden. She'd been trying to survive on scraps of love, too afraid to admit it was already gone. But nothing. Nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. A soft voice floated from inside the apartment. Familiar. Too familiar. Jason, just let her go. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Lana's heart stopped. She looked past Jason and saw her. Nina, her best friend, her sister in everything but blood, the only one who held her when she cried after the pregnancy test, the one who promised, no matter what happens, I'm here. Now here she was, standing in Jason's hoodie, in their apartment, her arms crossed just like his, her face blank, cold. Lana's voice trembled. You're kidding me. Nina didn't flinch. You should leave, Lana. It's not good for the baby to be around all this stress. Tears burned Lana's eyes. She looked between them. Jason, silent and stiff. Nina, shameless and smug. The betrayal pierced deeper than labor pains ever could. I told you everything, she said, breath shaking. You held my hand and slept with him behind my back. Nina said nothing. Jason stepped back and closed the door halfway. Don't make a scene. Just go. A final kick from the baby, sharper this time, as if it too could feel the rejection. Lana stepped backward, one shaky foot after another, down the apartment stairs. No jacket, no suitcase, no plan. Just a baby inside her, a storm overhead, and a world that no longer had a place for her. The first night was the worst. Lana's feet dragged through puddles as headlights streaked past. Her clothes were damp. Her bones felt hollow. Her belly pulled her forward like an anchor. People looked. No one stopped. She passed a glowing fast food sign and stood in line behind the glass for almost 15 minutes, just for the heat. When an employee noticed her, he stepped out and said, You can't stand here, ma'am. She nodded, didn't argue, walked away. She found herself behind a grocery store by instinct, quiet, hidden, a place no one paid attention to. The alley stank of mildew and bleach, but there was a crooked crate to sit on and a stretch of dry cardboard tucked under the awning. She sat, slowly. One hand braced her back, the other rested over her belly. It twitched beneath her palm, still alive, still kicking. She whispered something. A name, maybe. A prayer. No one heard it. The vent above buzzed softly. A nearby light flickered. She lay down sideways, knees drawn to her chest, arms curled protectively. Her body shook, not from fear anymore, from hunger. Across the alley, scratched into the brick, faint words. It gets warm again. She read them 3 times before closing her eyes. Down in the city, at Jason's apartment, a knock came through. Jason opened the door mid-laugh, a drink in his hand. Ah, brother, welcome. His elder brother quietly walked in, looking around. Where's Lana? Landon asked carefully. We broke up. Jason said smugly, I have a new girl now. What are you talking about? Landon asked, getting irritated. Jason smirked. Yeah, well, She made choices. I made mine. He said it like it meant nothing, like Lana had just left. His brother didn't smile. You kicked out your pregnant girlfriend? Jason's face twitched. She can take care of herself. The drink in his hand trembled. You're out of your mind, his brother snapped. You left her out there? Alone? Jason shrugged. She's not my problem. Landon stared at him, wondering how he could say such a thing, and without another word, his brother grabbed his jacket. It had been 29 nights since she left. 29 nights of sleeping in corners, warming her hands over strangers' fires, and eating just enough to stop the room from spinning. The blanket she'd found behind the laundromat was stiff with old rain. Her shoes had split. Her baby had stopped kicking so often. She didn't ask for much anymore. Just silence, a place to sit, a moment to exist without being asked to move. She was back behind the grocery store, same cardboard, same hum of the vent. It wasn't home, but at least the wind didn't hit her face. Her fingers traced the edge of her belly slowly. Just a little longer, she whispered. I promise. Then, footsteps. Not fast, not rushed. Careful, approaching without threat. She tensed. A shadow stopped just short of the light. Boots, a coat, broad shoulders. Then a voice, familiar but wrong. Lana? She blinked. He stepped into view slowly, hands raised, not in fear, but in gentleness, like someone trying not to scare a wounded animal. It wasn't Jason, but the face was close enough to shake her. Don't, she said immediately, her voice cracked from lack of use. Don't come near me. His expression fell. I've been looking for you for weeks. You found me, congratulations. I'm not here because of him, Landon said. I came because... I don't care, she snapped. You're his brother. I'm not him. She stood slowly, one hand on the dumpster to steady herself, the other on her side. I don't want anything from your family, she said through clenched teeth. Not your help, not your pity. You don't know what it's like to be left like trash with your baby kicking and nobody to... Her voice cut off. She gasped. One hand shot to her stomach. The cramp was sharp, deep. This time it didn't pass. Landon stepped forward instinctively. Lana? She braced herself against the wall, eyes squeezing shut. Another wave hit. Harder. She let out a broken sound, not quite a scream, not quite a sob. He was beside her before she could argue. Not touching. Just there. Solid. Waiting. Is it time? He asked quietly. Her knees buckled slightly. He caught her elbow, not forceful, not rushing. Let me help, he said. She wanted to say no, but the next contraction stole her breath. She nodded once, and that was enough. The hospital lights were too bright. Everything moved too fast. Landon burst through the emergency entrance carrying Lana half suspended, half dragged against him. Her face was pale, twisted with pain. Her lips trembled, not from fear but from the fight to stay conscious. Pregnant! She's in labour, Landon called out. She's been on the street. That last part made the nurses move faster. In moments they had her in a wheelchair, then on a stretcher, then behind closing double doors. Landon paced, fingers laced behind his head. A nurse came out to ask if he was family. He hesitated, then nodded. Closest thing she has. Inside, the room was clean and too white. Machines beeped softly. Her breaths were sharp, uneven. Her hands gripped the sides of the hospital bed like they were the only things holding her to earth. A nurse gave orders. Another checked vitals. A doctor asked questions, but Lana barely heard any of it. She turned her face away from the bright light, sweat beading at her temple. Then, a familiar shape in the corner. He was trying to step out, quiet, respectful. She saw him reach for the door handle, eyes low, and something inside her cracked, not from pain, from loneliness. Landon, she said, barely louder than a whisper. He turned. Her voice was thin, raw, almost gone, but it made the whole room freeze. Please, stay with me. He didn't hesitate. The hours blurred. She screamed, bit down on her own knuckle, cried without shame, groaned through every contraction. 12 hours of war against her own body. And Landon stayed, right at her side. He wiped her forehead with shaking hands, held the water cup to her lips, whispered things into her ear she could barely register. "You're doing amazing. Just breathe with me. I'm right here. I'm not leaving." He winced with every cry she made, nearly broke when she clutched his arm and screamed like her soul was ripping. And when the baby's first cry pierced the silence, Landon was already crying too. Not loudly, just enough that he had to turn his head away for a moment. But he didn't leave, not for a second. Not until Lana held her baby close against her chest, shaking and crying, but alive. Morning light stretched through the hospital blinds, warm and golden, brushing against the pale blue sheets. The world outside was still waking, but inside the small room, it was quiet, peaceful, in a way Lana hadn't known in months. She sat propped up, hair messy, eyes tired, arms curled around a tiny sleeping bundle. The baby's skin was soft and pink now, no longer red from birth. Her little hand peeked out from the blanket, fingers twitching like she was dreaming. Lana brushed her thumb across her daughter's cheek, gently rocking. "She looked at me with this scrunched-up, angry little face," she whispered. "And I thought, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." She paused, voice catching lightly. "That's why I named her Pearl." Landon stood just inside the room holding a small bag, a folded blanket under one arm, a new pack of wipes, a soft yellow onesie with tiny clouds printed on it. He didn't speak yet, just placed everything down carefully near the chair. Lana looked over at him. There was something unreadable in her expression, not fear, not gratitude, just truth, a kind of quiet that came after the storm. "Do you—" Her voice was hesitant, unsure. She adjusted Pearl slightly and looked at Landon again. "Do you want to hold her?" He blinked. "I mean," she added, already half regretting it, "only if—" "Yes," he said softly. "I'd really like to." She nodded and gently shifted the baby into his arms. He moved slowly, like Pearl might shatter. One arm beneath her body, the other cradling her head. The second she settled in his arms, he exhaled, quiet and long, like he'd been holding his breath since the day he started searching. He stared down at her. His thumb brushed the edge of the blanket. Then he said it. Quiet, almost like he didn't mean to say it out loud. "She's beautiful, just like her mum." Lana looked away, suddenly blinking fast. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full, heavy in the best way. Pearl made a small sound, half sigh, half yawn, and Landon smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. For the first time in a long time, Lana didn't feel like a burden in someone else's life. She felt safe. The clock on the hospital wall ticked softly, counting seconds no one noticed. Pearl was asleep again in the hospital bassinet, wrapped in the yellow blanket Landon had brought. Lana sat beside her, curled into the corner of the bed, legs tucked under her. She hadn't spoken much since she handed Pearl over, just stared at her daughter like she was still trying to believe she was real. Landon sat in the visitor chair, sipping vending machine coffee. It was quiet, but not the kind that felt empty, just peaceful. After a long while, Lana broke the silence. "When I was younger, I used to dream about giving birth and having someone waiting outside the room. A mum, a dad, someone pacing the hallway nervous." She smiled faintly, without warmth. "But when it really happened, there was no one to call." Landon looked up slowly. He didn't interrupt, just listened. She stared at the wall. "I grew up in foster homes, bounced around. 6 different houses before I turned 16. Some were fine. Some—" She stopped, shrugged. "You get good at pretending you're grateful even when you're terrified." Her voice wasn't bitter, just honest. Jason was the first person who ever told me I could stay. She said it quietly, like a confession. Her fingers curled around the blanket draped across her lap. I moved in after my 19th birthday. I thought I'd finally found something that was mine. Landon didn't speak. He sat forward, elbows resting on his knees, the coffee cooling in his hand. After a moment, he said softly, "That's a lot for one person to carry." Lana gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, well, the world doesn't really pause for you to catch your breath." He nodded once, thoughtfully, then said, "You don't have to carry it alone anymore." She didn't reply. But for the first time, she didn't flinch at the sound of someone offering to stay. Instead, she looked at him, really looked, and nodded. 2 weeks after Pearl's birth, Lana was still sleeping on stiff white sheets under hospital fluorescence. Her body was healing. Her milk had come in. She was changing diapers like she'd been doing it all her life. But she still flinched when shoes echoed in the hallway, still woke up expecting cold air and rusted fences. She kept her things in a plastic bag near the bed. No visitors, no flowers, no calls. Just Landon. He came every day, not loud, not grand. He brought coffee and fresh wipes, tiny bottles of lotion, a warm smile. He held Pearl when Lana's arms got tired. He stood silently when the nurse scolded her about insurance. He never asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. Then one afternoon, when Pearl was asleep on Lana's chest and the window blinds scattered soft light across the room, he finally spoke. "You don't have to go back to the street, Lana." She didn't answer right away. Her hand gently rubbed Pearl's back. Landon continued, voice steady. "I have space, the house is quiet. You and Pearl would have your own floor. Stay with me, just for the time being." Lana looked at him, not suspicious, not afraid, just tired. "Why would you do that for me?" He looked at Pearl, then back at Lana. "Because no one should bring life into this world and have nowhere to rest." The room fell quiet again. Pearl shifted softly in her sleep. Lana ran her fingers through her hair and exhaled. "Okay," she whispered, "for the time being." The car rolled up a winding drive. Trees lined both sides. Birds sang like they were paid to. When the mansion came into view, Lana's breath caught. It wasn't just big. It was beautiful. Clean white walls, silver fixtures, a porch like something out of a dream. Inside there was no crowd, no chaos, just warmth. A crib had already been set up in her room, a rocking chair, soft white curtains. Quiet. Landon didn't follow her around. He didn't hover, but somehow, he always showed up just when she needed something. She found herself smiling more, eating more, talking more. The bags under her eyes began to fade. Pearl's giggles became part of the house's rhythm. And for the first time in a very long time, Lana didn't feel like someone surviving. She felt like someone living. One evening, Landon knocked and told Lana he would be attending a family dinner with his family. He bid her and Pearl goodbye and drove out. The Kohler family dining room was polished to perfection. Silver cutlery gleamed under warm chandelier light. A long mahogany table stretched from end to end, dressed in cream linen and glassware. Every seat was taken. Jason arrived last, smirking, effortless, like nothing in the world had weight. He kissed their mother's cheek and dropped into the seat across from Landon. Dinner began with small talk, stock updates, a recent board decision, the new chef's sauce. But beneath it all, something twisted and silent coiled around the table. Landon barely touched his wine. He cut his steak in small, methodical pieces. His jaw worked harder than necessary. Their parents noticed. "Jason," Mrs. Kohler said casually between bites, "how's that young woman you were dating? What's her name again?" "Lana." Jason didn't miss a beat. "We broke up," he said, spearing a piece of asparagus. "Oh?" Their mother raised a brow. "Pity. She seemed lovely." I thought she was pregnant. Jason chewed slower, swallowed. She is. Mrs. Kohler paused, fork mid-air. Her eyes locked on him for a second too long. She didn't say another word, but the silence she left behind spoke volumes. Landon's knife scraped a little too hard against his plate. His head remained down, until he spoke. That was quite unreasonable, brother. Everyone froze. Landon looked up, calm, sharp, not raised but resonant. No matter what happened between you two, that girl was carrying your child, and you still chose to throw her out, over a woman she called a friend. I'm very disappointed in you. Very disappointed. Jason dropped his utensils with a soft clink. His tone darkened. And who are you to insert yourself into my personal matters? He leaned forward slightly. You don't get to play knight just because you... Mind your tone, Mr. Kohler interrupted, voice firm but low. Jason's eyes flicked to his father. Mr. Kohler didn't raise his voice either. That's your older brother you're speaking to. And your boss. The room thickened. Jason clenched his jaw, fury flickering just under his skin. Landon didn't flinch. They stared across the table. Jason's glare, tight, calculating. Landon's gaze, calm and deeply disappointed. Mrs. Kohler dabbed her mouth with a napkin, then looked between her sons. But she said nothing. Back at Landon's mansion, the sun was warm against the tall windows, painting gold streaks across the marble floors. Lana sat curled on the couch, Pearl asleep in her lap, while Landon leaned in the opposite corner, shirt sleeves rolled, reading through digital reports. The room smelled of lemon tea and soft baby powder. So, school? Landon asked casually, eyes still on the tablet. Lana glanced up, brushing hair out of her eyes. Yeah, I actually finished college, marketing major. Landon looked at her, impressed. Jason helped out with tuition, I'll give him that, but most of it I earned through scholarships, a few internships. He nodded slowly, tucking that detail away like it mattered, which it did. I've always wanted to open my own store someday, she added, voice lighter now. Clothing and accessories. Something vibrant but cozy. Landon smiled softly. I can picture it. 4 months later, there had been laughter, movie nights with Pearl squished between them. Mornings where Lana helped him sort through business reports, pretending to understand the corporate language. Afternoons where they cooked, her failing at pancakes, him failing worse. And nights, where the silence between them was warm instead of empty. Pearl had started sitting up, giggling, reaching for Landon's face every time he leaned close. Lana laughed more now, ate better, slept deeper, and somewhere in the quiet rhythm of healing, love crept in, gentle, undemanding, unspoken. Until one soft evening, Landon told her, "Put on something nice, we're going somewhere." She didn't ask questions, just smiled, heart curious. They pulled into a quiet street lined with shops. The streetlights glowed amber. The sky was streaked with deep lavender. Landon stepped out, walked around, and opened her door. She followed him wordlessly, her heels echoing softly on the pavement. Then he stopped in front of a glass storefront. The lights inside flicked on. A small sign hung above the door, etched in delicate gold. Pearl thread. Lana froze. Inside, the boutique was stunning. Sleek, elegant shelves, rich wooden floors, velvet seating, racks ready to be filled with dreams. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Landon," her voice cracked. "What is this?" He turned to her, hands in his pockets. "It's yours, the boutique, the name, the lease is in your name, all of it." She stepped in slowly, eyes glistening. He walked behind her, quiet. "I listened, Lana," he said softly. "You said you dreamed of this. So, I wanted to give you back something no one ever let you believe you could have." She turned to him, tears falling freely now, raw, overwhelmed, stunned. "Why?" she whispered. He smiled, stepping closer. Because I love seeing you happy, and because I've fallen for you. Her breath hitched. He took a step closer. Lana, will you be my girlfriend? She laughed through tears, wiping her cheeks. You're impossible. He waited, saying nothing else. She looked at him, at the man who never raised his voice, never turned away, never made her feel like she was asking for too much. She smiled through her tears and nodded. Yes.